Came a knocking on my door one night around 6 o'clock. I had no invitation, nobody to jot. I opened up the door and to my surprise there was a bright and shiny man with these piercing eyes. He said, "Sonny, you've been living your life with ease. Time to get back to work, son, get back on your feet." He left on that note without gloves or coat, even though the sky was gray. There came a knocking on my door, and I don't even know what for. After he left that night, I didn't think twice, didn't stress, didn't worry, didn't leave on a light note. I thought it was a dream cause there was no explanation why a man would show up to give me that brief exhortation. Thinking about the words that this man had said, started searching for some meaning as they raced around my head. Then I stopped with a start at the thought of repentance, and this is where I started to learn my lesson. So many ways, started working, started earning, got a job, making minimum wage. Now I praise the Lord for the life that he gave, for the pain and all the suffering, for my soul that he saved. Now I'm walking around, talking aloud, preaching the town. I don't know if they'll listen, but I won't step down now. Whoa, whoa, there came a knocking on my door. Wake up call for my life to begin. That I was doing fine, turns out I was drowning. Oh, there came a knocking on my door. Knocking on my door.
Well, hey, fellas, welcome to Fridays with the Fellas. Glad that you could join us. Hey, Lewis, looks like a chilly morning. Yes, it is chilly. We got down in the 20s last night, and we had 80s last week, so quite a shock to the system around here. Good morning, Dale. Hey, Alexander Torres. Good to have you with us. So it's Friday. That means we're talking man stuff and wisdom and those kind of things. And I have been... how do I say this? My conscience has been pricked a little bit with some thoughts in the last year or so, and we've been talking about it with our home fellowship guys quite a bit. And so I'm going to put it to you and see if I can prick your conscience a little bit. Well, here's the question, gentlemen. Does your city or community rejoice because you are there? And let me expand that just a little bit further. Your church, and I'm not talking about the building, I'm not talking about your programs. I'm talking about the men in your church, the group of men, the actual individual males that are part of your fellowship. Does the community, the city, the area in which you all live, do they rejoice because you are there? Is there a benefit to the community from your being there? Are you in any way exalting the city, lifting it up, making it better So we're in Proverbs, right? And let me show you what provokes these questions. Proverbs 11, 10 and 11. When the righteous do well, the city rejoices. All right, we'll look at the negative, the antithesis here in a minute, but just let me read that again, especially for those of you who are listening and not watching. When the righteous do well, the city rejoices. And then verse 11 says, a city is exalted by the blessing provided from the upright. What both of these verses say on the positive side is when righteous men are prospering, succeeding, doing well, it has an impact on the city. The city rejoices. In fact, the city can be exalted as the upright provide blessing. So this is interesting timing, given where we are these days, not just locally, but globally. Cities are not rejoicing in general, are they? Cities are not prospering and being lifted up. In fact, we see just the opposite. Literally, cities being torn down, destroyed, rioting, looting. You see people, depending on who you follow on social media, people saying get out of the cities. They're marked for whether it's terrorism, corruption, whatever. And that's the immediate concern. But in general, communities don't seem to be thriving. And I read verses like this, and then I look at myself, and I look at my church community, church fellowship, and I think, what can we do to make the city rejoice and to exalt the city? So some of you know some of my story. You know that I was a, quote, professional pastor for 25 years, and 23 plus of those was in one particular church here in Colorado Springs. And as I look back on my time there, and I ask this question of our church, I'm not sure I can say that we had an impact on the city. And again, it's so hard. I don't mean our building. I don't mean our programs. I'm just not sure what impact we had. And part of the reason was, like so many other churches, we did see church as the building and the service. We didn't see it this way explicitly. In fact, we denied it explicitly. I taught the opposite of this. But if you've watched my series on the church, you know that I now realize that the system itself, the model, just pushed us toward thinking that the service on Sunday morning and the programs in the building, that's what church is, even if we don't see that in the scripture and would reject that in principle. But the model itself kind of takes us that way. And so I look back at our people and what we focused on in our teaching and what our programs were designed to create. And I realize we just didn't motivate our people. We as the elders, the leaders, we did not motivate our people to live life as righteous men and cause our communities to rejoice. Now, there are a lot of churches in our community that have programs that are very community driven. They do outreaches. They do, the typical kind of soup kitchen kind of stuff. And we did that too. But I don't know our city, I think, Colorado Springs, I wouldn't say it rejoices. I wouldn't say it's lifted up because of those programs. Because I think the programs get in the way. It's the people. And so my point here is, and I'm going to try not to make this a rant, try not to make this a doctrine of the church discussion, but I think the traditional model of church does get in the way of encouraging men, especially men. We're talking with the fellows here. It gets in the way of encouraging men to pursue prosperity and success in every avenue of life to make an impact in the city. And let me read the first part of these two verses again. When the righteous do well, that's you and me. That's not only you and me. I don't think this has to be exclusive to Christians. I think righteous in this context is probably just, in general, people who mostly do the right thing. And there can be unbelievers that, because of God's common grace and because of, cultural training, generally do what's right. All right, they're not going around. It doesn't mean they're going to stand before God in righteousness. Obviously, they don't. If they don't believe the gospel, they won't. But they generally are, people that stay out of trouble and sort of live life well. I think it's a proverb. I think that's what he's talking about. But certainly, Christian men should fit in this category. That's you and me. When the righteous do well, when we succeed, when we prosper, that's what the word's getting at there, the do well. The city rejoices at that. And a city is exalted by the blessing provided from the upright. So again, the question is, you and me, are we a blessing to the city? Are you a blessing? The group of Christian men that you fellowship with, are you a blessing to the city? Good morning, Ozzy. Glad you joined us. What if we changed our perspective on this? What if we pursued blessing and prosperity? Not for self-aggrandizement, not simply to be looked at as successful, not to be wealthy and rich for the sake of those things, but to be a blessing to our community. What kind of impact could you have on your neighborhood, on your municipality? I mean, it's easy to sit back and criticize what's happening all around us, and there's plenty to criticize. Leftism has taken over cultural Marxism, and now we see the threats of danger and destruction that are right now at a crisis point over the world. And I don't want to ignore, dismiss all of that that's happening and so on. I'm not going to comment on all that at the moment. That's not the point here, but this is a longer term question, a longer term admonishment for us, I think. So we get through the immediate crisis and realize part of what led to the immediate crisis is the fact that righteous men are not having impact on our cities. Is that true? Would you agree? I know we've got Lewis from Canada on here. I'm not. I think everyone else is from the U.S. Ozzy, where are you at? What part of the world or country are you in? I would assume Lewis would agree that in Canada, Christians are not having a significant influence. So one question comes is, how do we do this? Well, so we've been discussing this for the last year almost with our home fellowship. Ozzy's in Houston. Okay, thanks. And we have a long-term vision. I was going to call it a plan. I don't know if plan, it's not quite to the plan level. But we've been discussing it and praying about it and thinking through how can we have a bigger impact on our community. Not via a program. Because I don't think that's what Solomon is talking about here, and I don't think that's what the church is supposed to be. It's fine to have some structure, it's fine to have some plans, but it's different. It's more organic. It's more life than that, if you will. Dale says Christians are often celebrated for their charity, but that tends to not override the moral dissonance. So charity, giving, to especially when there's tragedy. Is that kind of what you're getting at, Dale? When there's tragedy, when there's a big need, unexpected need. Our church did that. We had, you probably heard about this, may not remember, back in 2012 and 13, we had wildfires that threatened to just wipe out our city. I had never seen anything like it. Sometime I'll tell you about it because it makes for a great illustration on things like James 3. But there was great devastation. And one of the things that our church did is we opened our building to the city council and let them have meetings because our church was right at the bottom of the foothills where the fire was coming and, again, just destroyed a lot of houses. And so since we were in that community, we provided food. We had a big barbecue, huge, called it Big Bertha. Had this huge barbecue grill that we just ran constantly and we're cooking chickens, donating chickens. And we had food drives and all kinds of stuff, this kind of things you're talking about. And we opened up for the city to have their meetings so that the residents in the nearby neighborhoods could come and get information they needed and all that. So when crisis comes, the church does gain some notoriety, if you will, for that. But I'm talking about something a little bit more organic. Dale says, and a lot of righteousness Christians aren't known primarily as Christians. The wording there is throwing me off. Are you saying there's people who have some notoriety for their righteousness, but not necessarily because they're Christians? If that's what you're getting at, that's fair. And I'm suggesting this, he clarified, a lot of righteous Christians aren't known primarily as Christians. Yeah, exactly. And I'm not here even saying we have to be known as Christians. I'm just saying our attitudes as Christian men. Think of the impact we could have. So in other words, I don't think we have to go out and wear our, Christian t-shirts and show our fish tattoos all over the place. I don't think that's what the proverb here is talking about. I'm saying if we are righteous people and successful, the more of us there are, the greater the impact in the city. So anyway, back to what we're talking about is our home fellowship, especially our men. All the things that we talk about here, the fatherlessness that is almost universal. Not that every home is without an actual father, but even lots of homes where there is a father in the home, the father didn't teach the things we talk about, wisdom, all the stuff in Proverbs, the things we've been talking about in the last several weeks of just general health and strength and testosterone and all that, the getting a job and how to pursue a wife and how to treat her and just all the things that fathers are supposed to teach their sons. It hasn't happened even with the father in the home so often. Then basic life skills and business, we sort of default to the the process that you get through high school and then you go to college, even if it means taking on a great deal of debt. And then somewhere along the line, you try to find a wife and you get a job and you just, you work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and enjoy the weekend, go to church on Sunday, and then you get up Monday, do it all over again kind of thing. And that's kind of where we are as a culture, and the Christian culture is steeped in that. Instead of teaching what it really means to live life as men, as participants in our communities, to pursue Christ in every aspect of life, business again, and loving one another in community. So we've been thinking through all kinds of things in our home fellowship. We have quite a few business-minded guys, which I think a lot of men are. And what I mean by business, maybe I should define that a little bit. That may be the wrong word. We are designed as men to want to rule and subdue the earth. We're commanded to do that, and we are designed by God to accomplish that mission. We are builders. Doesn't have to mean we build with our hands. I'm not one of those guys. But building something, building a business, building an online YouTube channel, Twitter channel, X channel, whatever, building up one another, being part of something. We are not designed to just check the box and go work in an office 40 hours a week. That's not, and that can be a means to an end. Or that could be a great means to accumulating wealth to then build something else. And we're designed to build families and all those things. That's what we're driven to do. But feminism, leftism, Christianity has largely just stifled that creativity, that zeal for those kind of things, largely. And we're not training others and encouraging men to do those things. So we're saying, okay, how can we have an impact in our city? Colorado Springs is not small, but it's not huge, depending on your perspective. It's not like Houston. It's very small compared to Houston. But we see the potential to have significant impact in our city over time, long term. So we are in the process now of several of the guys just, accumulating capital, because we would like to find ways to help especially younger men, but not exclusively younger men, to develop skills, very practical life skills, taking care of your cars, basic household, your castle, your house is your castle. Be able to repair your castle and keep it up and that kind of thing. But also some income generating skills, along with all the stuff that we talk about here from Proverbs and general manhood and 7 core responsibilities that I talk about of manhood. And all that takes time and money. And so we are thinking through, all right, how can we accomplish that? And it's still in the brainstorming phase, if you will. But at least we're working towards something. And the goal is to be the kind of righteous men who are doing well, who are prospering, who are generating wealth and income, so that we can have a greater influence in training up men as well as politically. That's a whole nother topic that won't have time, but we also have a couple of guys who are really inserting themselves in the political processes here. Colorado has led the nation in so much wickedness, and we've done the mail-in ballot thing for a long, long time. And since that time, we've gone from a red state to a blue state. And we've got a couple of thriving leftist communities, Denver and other places that are just, the hallmark of liberalism. Well, there's a lot of corruption in our political system. Surprise, surprise. And so we have a couple men, one who's particularly skilled in IT. Well, they both are to some degree. We just evaluated this and decided, okay, it's not like republicanism is perfect, but it's the way to have the impact is see if we can have influence in the GOP. So they are inserting themselves in the GOP process here in Colorado. And one of their first tasks is to get on the right committees where they can hopefully expose more of the corruption of our election systems here in Colorado. Think of the impact that could have. I mean, what we found is the local committees, the GOP, they're not well organized. There's a lot of, big money kind of trying to control some things that cover up some things that can be fairly easily exposed and fairly easily made public. Imagine, just hypothetically, imagine that our state is not as leftist as it has voted for years and years. And imagine if our little group exposed the corruption and the cheating. I don't know if that's happening. I'm just, there seems to be evidence of that. And if we uncovered the cheating in the whole mail-in ballot, absentee ballot, all that, and we're able to spark a change where the elections became valid and honest, and it turned out we were able to elect people that made better laws, more righteous laws. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's feasible. I can foresee it. Imagine just some righteous men from our little community having that kind of impact. The city would rejoice. The city would be exalted. And if we accumulate some wealth and can start some businesses, that's part of what our plan is. My son is after this month, he's going to be self-employed. We're starting a business, and it looks like he's in a good place for that to thrive. And that's just the first or the next step in a larger pursuit of being able to employ men, to teach them skills, to train them in all kinds of things, to hopefully, Lord willing, bring them into our community and train them in righteousness and godliness and pursuit of Christ, and do good work in the community to see if we can't help this city thrive and rejoice. I will tell you, as a Christian man, if any part of this is blessed by the Lord as we go, I will say we've done more good than 2 decades of traditional model church. Now, your church may be better than that and different. Okay, I'm gonna not go down that path. Let me wrap up with the negative side here. When the wicked perish, there is joy. We should not be afraid to feel joy when the wicked perish. The wicked that are bringing destruction to our cities, when they literally die, or when they're exposed and brought to justice, those kind of things, feeling joy at that is the right thing to do. I think Christian bad theology has sort of skewed that in our mind, where we're afraid to rejoice at this. In the second part of verse 11, it is destroyed. The city is destroyed by the counsel of the wicked. We are seeing that all over America. Wicked counsel from the very top down through every level. Wicked counsel is destroying our cities. And I'll tell you this again, and we'll wrap it up here. we must vote. And we need to encourage our Christian brothers and sisters to vote. And we need to dig in at every level, federal, state, local. We need to dig in and vote the most righteous people we can. Now, our information is limited. The systems are not set up well. You get a couple paragraphs, but there are some organizations at every level that will dive into, and like judges, for instance. Judges have a tremendous impact in the legislation in our cities and states, and certainly federal. And it's hard to get information on the judges that have such an impact. But there are ministries, there are organizations that will dig in and give information on their ruling history and record. What kind of things do they rule this way, that way? You can find information if you'll dig. And we have to do that because we, in America and in Canada, we get to vote for the people who bring counsel and make decisions on our laws. And as our cities burn, literally and figuratively, they're doing so because righteous men and women have dropped the ball in who we put in those offices. That doesn't mean, I was going to say there's corruption. Certainly there are, I just told you what may be happening in our state, but we've got to overturn that, and we got to care and become righteous so that our cities rejoice because of our success. To me, this is exciting. As a man, as a Christian man, this motivates me to want to be successful and prosper so I can be a blessing to others and show them God's goodness in that way. So, all right, leave it there. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday to continue in Romans chapter 7. Dun, dun, dun. Take care.